What up, keepers of the flame? Welcome back. I am gonna do a quick video. Oh, incense. Okay, I don't have my burner on me right now, otherwise I'd light that for you. Maybe later. Anyway, not sure how that got here. So we're gonna talk about a little bit about like the adrenal function and how that Christ fluid functions, and we're just moving through the body here with I did a video on the amygdalas, the little almond cuppies in the brain that receive the information, and then your archangels that bring you back down into the christo fluid that flows through your entire spinal cord and throughout your system. Have a picture of that, but we could probably do that later. Let's do like the functions though in your real life. So the adrenal, the things that flood your system with the cortisol, right, from the trauma, right? That's what we're trying to get away from. It's the stress hormones that are wreaking havoc in our system. And we're finally starting to catch on to how much trauma and stress actually inhibit you from being much of anything but a walking pile of pain and misery and stress. And then you have no choice but to put it on everybody else around you, because human beings are not designed to hold that much ever under any circumstances. And this environment has been created, so we are products of our environment. Now, a lot of white coats are going to get all up in your face and deny that. Well, we're waiting around in the pudding right now. When we create the right environment and we allow certain things to grow like we have, this is what we're dealt. This is how this functions. And the moment we decide enough is enough, no more letting people get away with crap, that's when, see, it's just like a kind of a metaphor for having having a child, birthing a child, or having a pet that you do not instruct on how to best move forward. So if they're in an environment where everybody's fighting, they're going to grow up and be a fighter. If they're in an environment where, say, they were encouraged to do this, but not encouraged to do that, or they were, told that whatever the heck it was they were passionate about was a no-go, and it was making them antisocial, and that they needed to be a normal person and go out and be social with the rest of the world, and their dad burns down their laboratory, and then, things like Jeffrey Dahmer pop up. Okay. So when we have this idiosyncrasies of like just, how we're supposed to be in the world, and then we show up as that, and then we have these ideologies that are telling us, no, this is how you're supposed to be. And you pulverize people into sheer powder, which is useless, and then sprinkle it everywhere and go, this is how it's supposed to be. And then end up in a pile of shit pudding. And then you get to scratch your head and be like, well, it's whatever. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. No, you created your own environment. At some point when you become an adult, you're allowed to create your own environment. And this is the environment we've created. This is what we've held up with our vital life force energy. And now we have to face it. Yes, on sub levels, it really, really sucks. It does suck. But on other levels, this Pluto moving into Aquarius will allow us to be more truthful. It will allow the authenticity of who each individual is to come forward and be who they need to be to help this humanity ecosystem thrive in its environment, in its natural environment. So it's a huge thing, but if we can take that adrenal function into consideration when we're moving forward, Things like ashwagandha kind of settle the system a little bit. Licorice is really good for settling the system. I'm going to get a little bit more ballsy and say stuff like this. I am not a medical professional. I am not anybody to like take advice from, okay? This is just a few things for you to bring up to whoever you need to bring up to your healthcare professional, whatever that means for you. So these are things that can be implemented on a physical level, but we're going to dial it all the way down to the cellular structure, which means actually removing the harmful, stressful situations we put ourselves in. Now, for some people, that can't be avoided, and that really sucks, but you can begin to stand up for yourself. Now, where that's going to get you, nobody has a crystal ball when it comes to that. So you can do it in polite ways. Places like Dan O'Connor Communication Skills on YouTube is really helpful. Extremely helpful for that. There's another lady that was on, in this Women of Impact channel. She tells you how to say no in a respectful way. No, thank you. If somebody's, criticizing how you eat or what you eat, you just explain to them that, like, I have personal dietary needs and this is what it pertains. So, because on a psychological, subconscious, adrenal level, that person is telling you, your person doesn't matter. Your needs and wants are making me uncomfortable. So you need to fix them and go get what I think you should have on your plate. Completely disregarding who we are as people. Now, this is really, really heavy work, because the one thing we think we're really, really struggling with, and that people are just criticizing the stuff that we don't want on our plates and the stuff we do want on our plates so we can ingest the things that are good for us, whatever that looks like for you. That's once you've dealt with that little minuscule prospect of things, you're going to begin to wake up to all the other things. Once you have that little nugget, a whole world of things is going to open up. And this is where people hit a deadlock on their progression through self-advocating and self-authenticity and self-love and self-respect. This is where people hit a roadblock, because you're going to now begin to understand that, no one had a right to tell me anything when it came to my own person, the way I needed to be treating myself, not any outside forces, the decisions that I make for myself. And sometimes you're going to come to an understanding that doing the toxic thing for yourself was upheld and coddled and encouraged. And the thing that was correct for yourself and was for your benefit, as well as everyone else around you, because that would have encouraged them to grow in their own authenticity, is been bludgeoned into powder. Not in every case, but in a lot of them. So this is a massive movement forward. And the sick part about it is, the sick, twisted part about it, as much pushback as you are going to receive, as much abandonment that's going to occur in your life because you are saying, I want to put this on my plate. Please respect that, or I am going to have to remove myself from this situation. This is what I choose to eat. It's my body. It's not yours. Okay. Now, if you are choosing to abuse that process, people have the right to be concerned. They don't have the right to judge. That's two very different things that society has up the you know what with no app and lube. The concern and the shame. Two completely different things. You don't shame anyone into doing anything. Ever. It doesn't happen that way. They either hide it and suppress it, or they're like, okay, I thank you for acknowledging that I have this problem. Thank you for, letting me be open and honest about it, and getting to the root cause of this, whatever it is. That rarely happens. Even if you were to go into a rehab, they're not going to give you the psychological problem that you're actually dealing with. They're going to say, you eat this at this time, and you do that at that time, and blah, blah, blah. They're dealing with the physical, not the pattern in the environment that you have internally that created this physical outcome. Okay? And so something was implemented in your psyche at some point that is bringing up this physical manifestation. It does not work the other way around. This is what I'm talking about. Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius. I can't freaking wait, dude. So when we are manifesting things, you will see people being like, well, you didn't do it right. You're not creating the environment for that thing to pop up in your life. Or you don't live anywhere near that environment for those things to facilitate. So you have to change your environment until those things can actually grow and flourish there. It's like planting a gardenia, which grows like in places like Texas and more southern climates, up in like a zone 2 or a 1 up in Canada, and being like, I don't understand. Why doesn't it come back up every year? Because it's not conducive to the environment you're providing it. It's the same concept with humans. If we want to do better, we have to cultivate better. We have to feed better. We have to get more hardy. We have to get a little tougher. We have to do these things. We have to pinpoint how the steps are going to manifest for us, not how we're going to think ourselves clean. How are we going to get ourselves clean physically? How are we going to clean up the environment? Right? I'm burning candles right now, but I also have plants around my house that clean the air along with an air filter. So there's an equal give and take there. I'm putting smoke into the environment. The air filters are taking it out. Ta-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay? So understanding that your environment creates your growth or your stagnation. Okay? So when you are feeding yourself the adrenaline fuel, which, oh boy, are we attached to? Freaking true crime communities. Here they come. Listen here, lady. We make a living off of this. Knock it off. The reason why we needed that for so long, though, was because we were in that. That was the environment. Okay, that's going to change now. It's going to shift. We're starting to see like banking people go away. We're starting to see more people like just fall. And it's going to continue to process that way. If you were contributing to the toxicity of any environmental situation, you are just you're gonna be kind of like, brushed out. And, that's how the universe rolls. And again, these environments and facilitations of a conducive outcome, whether it be good or bad, is just going to be brought to the surface now. We're going to be like, is this serving us, or is this not? Okay, so things are going to get really bad in some situations and things are going to get really good in others. So how do you deal with that, right? So you dial down the stress, okay? You don't dial down stress with delusion. Saturn in Pisces. You don't dial down stress with delusion. You don't. You can give things your good faith, and then once they show you that this is not conducive to your growth or expansion, even though you thought it was in the beginning, but they're just there to pulverize you into whatever the hell they think you should be rather than who you are, that is going to be an adrenal function that is not conducive to your expansion and growth. So again, these are not things that are like, you need to like blah, 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 blah. If you are trying to express yourself in an authentic, do no harm manner, and people are about it, that just means that's not for you. Those people are not, they don't have the capacity for whatever it is that you're bringing to the situation. So you move your little boat to safer waters, to more like conducive to expansion and growth for yourself and those people around you that want to partake in the expansion and growth. If they don't, that's okay. That might not be their path. They might have a lot of Saturn in their chart. And they might need to like just quit distracting me. You know what I mean? So like there's different modalities of existing in this vast ecosystem. So when one part butts up against the other, you learn your lesson, you understand how the operation of this particular construct or situation you found yourself in works, whether it be like through work or workshops, like if you go to like sometimes there's like this wine and painting thing people can go to. There's different like book clubs and things like that. You find yourself, or online communities, Discord, Telegram, whatever the heck it is. You find yourself in this situation where you're learning and growing and seeing things from other perspectives. And that's why they show up in your world. And sometimes it's just a matter of like, okay, I learned this one thing. I understand this now on a deeper level. I get how people see this and see that and whatever else. And if something comes up that's like, stress hormone, you just do what you need to do with it. And then you just go. You just leave. Because it's not conducive to your growth. The stress hormones are there to signify something. And that signifier is not, I'm going to sit here and take this. That's how violence is facilitated, right? When somebody says to you, I can't handle my pain, you hold it all for a while. That's not conducive to their growth or expansion. That's enabling and that's toxic, okay? So that's going to harm your adrenal function, and it's going to make them dependent on you, which is also a whole nother adrenal function. Okay, so getting yourself untangled from those patterns and processes of toxic entanglement, rather than listening to some nutbag guru preach about how you should really be out there socializing. Not in this environment with people who are hell-bent on being like, can't hear you. What are you saying again? None of this makes sense. By the way, bunch of random names that you probably aren't anyway. And if you are, you already knew it and you're working on it. And if you're not working on it, you don't know it. In which case, you're not listening to me right now. So, understanding that process of happenings and respecting it for what it is rather than forcing yourself into it or changing who you are to fit that paradigm, right? That's not what we're here to do right now. Pluto and Aquarius will never tolerate that unless like hell is your thing and you're a masochist. Teach their own, right? So taking this crystal fluid and trying to purify it as much as you humanly can. So sticking up for yourself might cause a little spike in that, might cause a little shift. Things change a little bit. You're like, ooh, this is weird and different and awkward. But it still needs to happen because it's strengthening you and saying, okay, you have crossed my boundary. You have disrespected my person, not in an emotional, like, oh, that hurt my feelings. This is, you are calling me names. You're making crazy assumptions about me. You're spreading rumors. You're making my job more difficult. You're making my life more difficult. You're, those types of things that cause you to feel enormous amounts of stress and pressure, to the point where you're like, I have to do this, that already caused me stress. Do I really need this thing in my life that causes more stress? No. So whatever needs to go away, needs to go away. Because this is going to be, so Aquarius, let's get into Aquarius real quick. This is the adrenal function, okay, in your body is a river of sorts. And it is like either healing you or harming you, okay? That's Aquarius, the water pouring and the cup receiving, or the jug, whatever it is, okay, in the tarot. The star card. Okay, so when we're receiving other waters that are not healing, our jug's just going to break. Our whole entire system is going to be flooded with crap that it's just going to continue to break us down. And we're not just referring to the outcomes of our civilization, right? We're dealing with the physicality of things, the mentality, the emotional, the financial, and the social outcome of things. Okay, that's the repercussion for putting out harm. Okay, now if your job on the planet is give no fucks, okay, that's fine. Not giving a fuck. But when giving a fuck gets to the point of harming, okay, that's harm on one level, and not giving a fuck gets to the level of harming, you have now stepped out of alignment and out of morality. That's the only morality that actually matters, is when you're doing the harm rather than staying in your own body, your own skin, respecting your christo, Christ fluid that's flooding your system with either cortisol or, go figure, I don't even know what the serotonin. What's the other one? There's a bunch of them. But anyway, stress hormone, calm hormone. So ways that comes out and functions through the vital life force energy that you are here on the planet in your lovely little suit playing out, that you don't get to escape from. So what's the other bonding trauma bond? You can find it in religion. You can find it in so when you go to the white coat community for assistance with something, and they will not hear what you have to say, and they're like, this is the problem, and you're like, but that has nothing to do with this over here. And they're like, no, this is your problem, and you're going to take this medication, and you're going to do this thing, and because I told you to. And then you go and you take the medication. This doesn't get fixed, but now you have a whole other list of symptoms that you have to go back to the doctor for and take medications for each one of those symptoms. Meanwhile, the reason why you went to the doctor, still there, not healed, not helped, not even suppressed the symptom. Didn't take the side effects away, pain, whatever the heck it might be. This thing's still hanging out. Meanwhile, now you have a whole slew of other things to deal with. And doctors still not listening to you about what's going on. Kind of like you're told you're talking to an expert that's supposed to know what the fuck is going on. And they have no idea because they can't even hear you. They're not listening. I have this thing. No, you have this thing. And here's the thing that you're going to take care of this thing. And here's all the things that are going to come along. So you're asked to be completely severed as a human being with your truth versus their truth. And they are not mixing and matching whatsoever. And you're just like, how do you proceed? You take yourself out of this situation, try to find a second opinion and a third opinion, possibly an alternative opinion, possibly give your birth chart a look, because a lot of times when we're dealing with situations where they can't figure it out, it's oftentimes, well, like the natal chart, if you can get to a medical astrologer, they'll be able to pinpoint it for you. So when you're working with that modality of things coming in and saying, deny your reality and everything will be okay, that's going to induce a lot of trauma. Gaslighting is such a light word for it. That's denying you whole as a human being. You're completely rejected in the physical realm, not just your emotions, not just your mentality about something, not just your social structure might be wrong or right or whatever else, things that are tangible. Your very physical existence is a lie, because this thing is not worthy of even being looked at, but you're going to suffer over here because you brought this up. Okay. Because pharma is going to feed their bank account because this thing over here. Meanwhile, you're still left holding this thing. Okay, so if that's not traumatic, I can't give you. And then they charge you. They're gonna drain your bank account for not fixing this thing and giving you a whole list of other things. You see how that might not work so well? Okay, so solutions to this conundrum: finding your inner peace and your inner voice. So psychology teaches us, right, that we come to this outer realm to communicate what's going on. And we can do that with people who can actually hear us. When people don't hear us, they don't listen, they're not conceiving of our existence. They're just taking what we say and painting us in all these broad brushes and, well, this is this, and I see this like that, and this has to mean this because it can't mean anything else than what I know it means. These different modalities come in and they paint you in a particular picture. And then when they're telling you how they see you, you're like, but that's not what I said at all. So there's got to be a meeting point to where you're presenting yourself and how people see you. There's got to be an inner weaving in that scenario where the truth comes to light, because we don't always see ourselves in the correct light, and that's on purpose for relational means. If you want to know what you are in the world, get a pet, or look at how your children behave, or how your beloved behaves, or how your besties kind of interact in their own little circles. The places that you are like, oh, that's a little fucked, maybe don't do that. You're probably picking up on at least a subconscious narrative of yourself. So, which those that don't know how to just not judge people and just observe for a hot second are going to be in the modality of doing that. So if you can just take an objective look at it and go, this is what I'm holding over here, this is what they're feeding me back, how does this intermingle? And if it doesn't intermingle, it just means you need to move away from the people who are not seeing you, not listening to you, and remembering that, yes, you might have some inner work to do, but at the same time, it doesn't warrant you putting up with the treatment. That's where we get really fuzzy. It doesn't warrant tolerating abusive, gaslighting, broad brushing rudeness from anybody. It doesn't warrant that. And that's what we forget. Well, we just have to understand where they're coming from. You don't understand where someone else is coming from if you are not understood for where you're coming from. That's not how relationships work. That's the opposite of relation. That's delation. Okay. So moving away from those and then getting into yourself and finding that inner peace where that balance comes in for you. Those sacred acts and rituals. Rituals are just practices that you do every day or on a regular, consistent basis. So one thing a day that feeds you, that facilitates you, that brings up your inner voice, that can look in so many different ways. It's ridiculous. Could be mirror work, could be lighting candles and staring at a flame, could be meditating, listening to particular music, going for a walk, going for a run, doing yoga, all these different things, or maybe it's all, right? Whatever it is that gets you in your body and safe and comfortable in being your authentic self and producing your own voice, creating that cyclic pattern, okay, that you put out into the ethos that's going to have you in a more strengthened and authentic place of existing. So when people do come in and they're well, when you're standing in that place, they're going to feel threatened, right? When they come in, you just shuffle them aside and be like, I see your pain and agony. It's not mine. It's not my responsibility. You need to go over there. And when you can decide to behave and treat me with respect, then we can have a conversation, possibly about your healing that you're seeking from me and think that you're entitled to, but are not. Okay? Those types of situations that we find ourselves in. No. It's just like a toddler screaming and throwing a hissy fit. No. I will wait until you are calm and then we can have a civilized, respectful conversation about what your needs are versus what my needs are. Just a nope, time out. You can settle those feelings and emotions. You're allowed to have them, but I don't have to pay for whatever it is that you are doing right now. Okay. I hate to use the mother for thing, but like a lot of people just don't grow up. That's the truth of it. So we have to get into that mode of like, okay. And that's the thing is when you feel like you have to be mothering someone, that is not a relationship for you to have. It's just a construct of like, nope. You instruct them exactly how they are to behave in your presence. Period. The end. No exceptions. Okay. That's good medicine because that'll keep healthy the environment that you're creating for yourself. Okay. So whatever that is, start investing in that time, attention, energy, whatever it looks like for you, into those things that facilitate your peace, your sovereignty,